Good evening. How are you? My name is Takiwa Smith, founder and executive director of Science, Engineering, Mathematics Link Incorporated, and I want to welcome you to our Teen Science Cafe. I'm very excited because it's our first Teen Science Cafe of our new fiscal year, our 15th fiscal year, and I'm also excited that we have the technology tools to do it virtually so we can still bring great scientists to you so you can learn about STEM careers. So, our Teen Science Cafe is a program of our Math and Science Career Academy in which we engage youth in hands on STEM activities in their classrooms, communities, and out of school time programs and provide opportunities for them to explore STEM careers. Our Teen Science Cafe is our program specifically geared for teens because we believe in your teen years is where you start making decisions about college and career. And we want to provide an opportunity for you to get make those decisions informed. And the way you can do that is by meeting and interacting with the STEM community. So I'm going to turn it over to Carlin Pounders, our program coordinator, that is going to introduce our speaker.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, Oya Michelle Watson is a natural resource specialist, park ranger with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They earned a degree in geology with a minor in geography and geographic information systems from Georgia State University. Go State! I am also an alum.
Go Panthers.
Oya Michelle has a lifelong interest in how the Earth changes over time. Geology has been a perfect avenue to explore questions about Earth processes that drive massive geologic formations, extreme weather events, and climate systems. Their current work as a park ranger allows them to use the intersection of their personal experiences and education to find innovative ways to reconnect people to outdoor spaces while actively enhancing and restoring natural habitats. Oya Michelle is currently pursuing a master's degree in hydrology and water security at the University of Oklahoma and hopes to assist in the work of protecting water resources. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Ranger Watson.
Hi, and thank you. Thank you so much. And good night, everyone. Again, my name is Oya Michelle Moneyworthy or Ranger Watson, and I am so excited to be able to share with you all my experience as a park ranger and how I was able to get into the field of natural resource management as a current natural resource specialist. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we'll get into a little bit of the presentation. Okay, can you all see that all right? Okay. So again, I earned my Bachelor's of Science degree in geology with a minor in geography and GIS or Geographic Information Systems from Georgia State University in 2016. I'm currently, again, a natural resource specialist park ranger with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at Allatona Lake, which is a small lake project 30 minutes north of Atlanta. And I have a lot of different roles as a park ranger, but I do manage a couple of programs, and those programs include the Shoreline Management Program, the Special Status Species Program, Habitat Conservation Program, the Environmental Compliance and Coordination Program as well. And I'll go into those a little bit afterward, but I'll let you know about how I got into this field and how I got started. So here's just a couple of pictures of myself. This is me as a 7-year-old, and on the left there, that's a project that I did when I was in 6th grade, and that was a career project that I did. And I guess the assignment was what I wanted to be as as an adult, and I chose at 11 years old atmospheric scientist slash geologist. And, you know, as a child, I had always been interested in being outside and looking up into the clouds or looking up at space, watching a lot of documentaries and lots of nature films. But I didn't really have a lot of experience hiking or camping or anything like that. Everything that I did was pretty much in the vicinity of my neighborhood or around my house. But even with that, I was very much interested in understanding how the world works. And when I was in the third grade, I had a very formative experience where in my elementary school, I actually witnessed a tornado kind of go through my community and wreak havoc in my community. And this tornado was a very rare occurrence. The area that I grew up in DC and the Maryland area usually does not have tornadoes at all. And somehow I was able to witness this incredible, powerful system. And I was completely terrified, but also extremely curious. And I think ever since then, it really solidified to me that I wanted to study how the earth works and how storms form and how hurricanes form and how geological processes shape the earth and how we live on the planet today. I think that really was an important factor in my life. And I think after then, I was glued to the Weather Channel and shows and movies like Twister and The Day After Tomorrow. Those were the kinds of shows that I watched. And I remember even an occurrence where I would stand in front of the TV with the Weather Channel on mute in front of my mom and tell her about the different kinds of front systems or storm systems that would move in. And that was me at 11 years old in the sixth grade. So I think I had always had a passion for studying the earth. And that was just something that I was always curious about. And I continued to foster that curiosity throughout middle school and high school. So again, I'm a Panther. I graduated at Georgia State 2016. I did a lot of different kinds of activities. While at Georgia State, I was in the marching band, I was in the geoscience club, I was a part of the astronomy club. And I think I just wanted to immerse myself in as many things as I could as possible so I can get as many experiences. And that's one thing I do want to highlight. If you ever get the chance to take, any opportunities, please do that, because you won't know how that would change your trajectory. So as an undergraduate, I had a great time learning about geology, and I was very fortunate to audit graduate classes in the planetary science and the astronomy department. And I was able to really merge and mingle how the Earth works and how the planets are formed, and how essentially I kind of fell into the field of geomorphology, which is essentially how the Earth changes over time and studying how the Earth changes. So throughout that time as an undergraduate, towards the end of my undergraduate career, I was a senior, and I had initially thought that I wanted to be a research scientist and go down the graduate research path and eventually become a professor. Well, after some experiences during my field camp, where we get to go out to the Western United States, Montana and Wyoming, and just see these beautiful places and map the geological formations. Well, after some experiences, I realized that was not what I want to do with my life. And I guess, many people at the end of their undergraduate career, they're just trying to figure out, how do I get a job, or how do I move forward? So that's basically where I was. And I want to give just a quick plug to the Greening Youth Foundation. So my second to last semester as a senior in undergrad, I was able to intern with the Greening Youth Foundation, and I started as their PSI CHIP intern, which is the Public School Initiative Collegiate High School Internship Program. And I was able to do a lot of environmental education opportunities around boys and girls clubs and after school activities around Atlanta. And that was a really formative experience for me, again, because I had thought that I had wanted to be a professor. I had thought that I wanted to go straight into research science and do that field. And then realizing that wasn't something that I was actually passionate about. I was able to focus my passion on the earth and the environment and talk to young people that look like me, other young kids, about the importance of learning the environment and knowing your surroundings. And I think that was an incredible experience. And it kind of showed me and opened my eyes that there are more avenues, even if you choose a path in undergraduate, choose a major or something, you can always use that for something else in your future. So I want to remind and just at least highlight that for you. So I was, after my PSI internship, I was very fortunate to get an internship with my GIS experience and map making experience with the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area which is about 10 minutes north of Atlanta. And that was a really fun time for me because I did enjoy being outside. I didn't want to have a job where I was stuck behind a computer all the time. So with that internship position, I was able to hike throughout the Park Service lands and understand, the intersection between geology and public lands and how we can use that for environmentalism and conservation. So, as a surveyor, we get to, again, hike all the time in Georgia heat and humidity. But that's kind of the fun part because you get to see a lot of incredible things during the hottest times of the year, especially in Georgia. But again, that was really a highlighting moment for me because I was able to work with park rangers who absolutely loved their job. And one that was really weird to see for me because I hadn't worked with people who really enjoyed their jobs besides working with the Greening Youth Foundation, but really seeing people who everything they do from the minute they wake up to go to sleep, it's about what can I do to protect the environment and protect the space, around me, the natural spaces around me. And that was an important thing to see. And I was, again, very fortunate enough to get an extension as the GIS intern. So I was a GIS intern with the surveyor technician for a year. And then I was hired on again with the biologist, the terrestrial biologist. So the biologist that works with land species and mostly. I was the special use intern, special use permitting intern. So essentially what that means is that I would assist the biologist with any kind of permitting process with utility lines, like sewer lines or pipelines, gas pipelines or telephone lines or power lines. All of the land underneath those lines or above those lines, those were in public lands. And so I was very fortunate to work with the biologists, to work with those different entities that manage those lands to figure out what we can do to protect certain plant species, fauna species, animal species, and even since it was a river park, how we can assist with aquatic species as well. So again, using all of that information coming from my background in studying how the earth works was, I think, extremely helpful. I did take some classes as an undergraduate in biology, but a lot of it was focused on geology. But with this job as a special use intern, I was able to merge both of those fields together, and I think it really highlighted a beautiful relationship between how soils and plants will interact and how we can use that to further conserve and protect our environment. And so I was that special use intern for about a year and a half. And then I was kind of hired on with the Bureau of Land Management out in California, right outside Death Valley, California, as the Bishop Paiute internship, tribal internship coordinator. And that's kind of a mouthful, but essentially I had the opportunity to work with the Bishop Paiute tribe out in California and their internship program. And I was able to connect and create work days with the BLM staff and rangers and the Forest Service staff. So I was able to connect them with foresters, with the wilderness rangers, with the biologists. We're even able to, for example, I took them out to a dormant volcano, and we mapped some of the lava tubes to support a endangered bat species. So we're trying to locate the bat species, and also while we're crawling through the lava tubes, we're also mapping that out. So that was something that I thought was really fun and really enjoyable. And I think that really solidified to me that land management, working with the land, natural resource management, that is something that I can see myself doing. And that's something that I really felt, or I could see that that was a career path, and it wasn't just a job. So I want to kind of go into the roles of a ranger and the kinds of things that we get to do. So just kind of really quickly, there are many types of rangers. You have rangers that work for the National Park Service, rangers that work for the Forest Service, rangers that work for the Bureau of Land Management, and those are all different kinds of land management agencies that have different kinds of roles. And so I work, again, for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And so a lot of what the Army Corps does, they manage the waterways, all the navigable waterways of the U.S. So your rivers, your streams, your lakes, a lot of those are managed by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so the park rangers that work for the Army Corps of Engineers, a lot of times those lakes, they have land around them. So what park rangers are authorized to do is to protect the land and the water, that I guess Congress had authorized us to manage and maintain. So again, here are some roles of rangers. So within all the different kinds of agencies, you can have, the different kinds of rangers within those agencies. Now, I'm just going to talk about the different kinds of rangers within the Army Corps specifically, but I'll be happy to talk and highlight, the other rangers in different agencies like the Forest Service and the Park Service. But with the Corps of Engineers, you have, recreation rangers and land management rangers. And then within those sections, you have interpretive rangers. And so those are rangers that you would usually go on hikes or tours, maybe to see historic sites or talk about the natural spaces. Then you have some physical scientist rangers. I kind of fall into one of this classification just because of my background, but a lot of times these rangers, they're the kind of rangers that would do and conduct some observations and studies around the natural science or natural spaces. So then I'll talk about that in a little bit further about some of the work that I do specifically at Allatona Lake. But a lot of the times you have rangers that are biologist rangers or forestry rangers that will manage for those specific areas. So for example, the forestry ranger, a lot of the times their job is to manage for forest health, to improve forest health, for timber management and timber sales, and to increase and habitat improvement mostly. So that also can include, like in the top left photo, We have some food plots in some of our areas, and food plots essentially are large meadows that we manage for different mammals to have access to food, and we also have some biologist rangers. We work with aquatic species or land species like bats or fish. We also have wilderness rangers, and those are the rangers that will maintain your permitting if you were to go hunting or fishing or something like that, or go hiking, and maintain those permits. And then you have your recreation use rangers. So anytime you go to a lake or a river, and you have people in some campgrounds or some day use areas where there are beaches or hiking areas, that is also a job of a recreation ranger. And then you have, for example, some law enforcement rangers, so rangers that can enforce the rules and regulations, and there are also rangers that can do all of that. So I just kind of want to help you wrap your head around, there are so many opportunities for a park ranger. There's so many different avenues for a park ranger. And the reason why I completely enjoy being a park ranger is because you get to wear so many different hats. You get to do a lot of different things. And one of the things I tell people is, I can go from doing an eagle survey out on the lake to a search and rescue. That's kind of how my days can range. It doesn't get as as exciting as that sometimes, but it definitely can. The opportunity is there. So some of the, now I'm gonna kind of talk about some of the specific programs that I manage. At Allatona Lake, I am one of the Shoreline Management Shoreline Management Rangers. And so essentially what that is, there are some private exclusive use on the lake, which can form as trails or docks. And what I do, I try to work with the public on maintaining those facilities or structures, or in the case on the right here, where we have a lot of erosion happening, I would work with the public or the permittee who has the dock to work to help or stabilize that shoreline bank. And there are a couple of things that you can do to stabilize banks. For example, you can place rock, what we like to call riprap, or I usually highly suggest planting certain shrubs or grasses on the bank. And I enjoy really educating people on how plants can really help with erosion activities like this, and how the root structures are definitely more supportive and will benefit not only the lake but future generations if you plant shrubs and trees on a shoreline instead of using concrete or just rocks or something like that. So the photo in the center here is just an example of some of the kind of facilities that I come across on the lake. And what I do, I work with different permittees or people from the public to correct, some of these issues. Like here, the flotation devices have, this dock had broken loose after a storm. And essentially what I try to do, I work with marina holders or permittees to try and get these corrected so everyone can enjoy the lake safely. So I talked a little bit about the forestry management or forester rangers, but I also work with the forestry ranger in a couple of programs, with the habitat conservation program and the timber management program and the hazard tree program. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the hazard tree program. And essentially what I do is it is very important. We as park rangers, as environmentalists, as conservationists, we really value the importance of trees. However, there are some instances where there are some trees that can pose, a safety hazard, to the public, or some property. So essentially, what I do, I would assess the health of the tree, and I use a couple of different requirements or standards to assess the trees, and then I work with either a neighboring property owner, or a park, or a city park, or a state park, or something like that. And we tried to create best management practices to either take down the tree, or try to create habitat, or try to find new uses of that tree. And a lot of the times, what I'm looking for when I'm assessing for a hazard tree is, one is, what kind of tree is it? What are the characteristics of that species of tree? Is it leaning for health reasons or to get sunlight? And that's one thing that I definitely have to explain to a lot of people. A lot of times, trees will lean so they can get the most amount of sunlight available, especially in a crowded, in a dense canopy area. And a lot of times, people would confuse that lean with the tree is ill, or the tree is sick, or something like that. Another thing is, I would try to measure the canopy, is the basal level. So how much canopy compared to the height of the tree is still green, or alive, or thriving. And two, how best can we correct the issue? So if the tree is deemed sick, has been struck by lightning, is completely leaning, not to get sunlight, but because it is injured or something like that, or may have had like a pine beetle or some kind of beetle infestation or something like that, I will then give the options to create, you know, habitat with the fall tree, or leave the tree standing, what we like to call snags, because dead standing trees are immense habitats for a host of mammals and birds. And so we like to keep even our standing trees, as long as they don't, again, pose, a threat to life or property. But that is some of the examples of what I do just every day. On a picture on the right here is just an example of timber, or a timber contract. So the lake that I work at, Allatona Lake, has over 25,000 acres. A lot of that is forested. And so a part of the forest management and forest enhancement, and trying to improve the forest health, is actually thinning out the forest. So then we can have a healthy understory as well as a healthy canopy. So I assist the forester ranger in marking trees, in removing invasive species like Chinese privet, or kudzu, or English ivy. And then we try to plant other species, native species to North Georgia specifically, that would help all of the neighboring animals, mammals, and plants, and aquatic species as well. That is just some of the examples of what I do as a park ranger with the Corps of Engineers here. So another part of the forestry, with maintaining forest health and improving, ecosystem health, is prescribed burns, and this is probably one of, by far, my favorite activity to do. And essentially, what entails is that we will create a burn plan, and we would map out, survey an area for a prescribed burn. And the reason why we do prescribe burns is because historically, especially when you have pine forest and pine tree areas, those areas were, they had fire. Fire was very necessary in order for like pine species and other coniferous species to germinate and essentially pollinate. And so after years of fire suppression, which is definitely necessary, you know, but after years of fire suppression, we now learned that you know, fire is actually a very important part of the ecosystem, and it actually helps maintain the forest's health and to help, you know, increase the amount of species of plants, and could help bring back certain animals like birds. And so, for example, the picture on the right, that is a picture of a longleaf pine. And the northern part of Allatona Lake is actually has shown some evidence to have a historic longleaf pine, montane longleaf pine ecosystem. So we have worked with different state agencies and partnered with different organizations to get these longleaf pines back and work to do prescribed burns, which is very important in maintaining the forest health for longleaf pines. And so that is one of the main things that we do as well as rangers, but also with forest management and improving forest health. So another program that I help manage is a habitat conservation program. And a big part of, you know, my job as a park ranger is trying to find ways to continue to assist with making the outdoors an enjoyable space for everyone, and that includes all species. So I'm always trying to find ways that we can improve certain spaces that may have been historically used as like an agricultural field for something, or as an agricultural field, and how we can recreate that to improve the overall health of our project and of our natural space. So one of the things that we worked on, the photo on the left here, that is a nest of an osprey nest. And ospreys are native to North Georgia in the area around Allatona Lake, and they're very, very important, and they're incredible bird species. If you ever get to see them in action, they are probably just the most amazing bird species, probably one of my favorites. But there was a program that we worked with Georgia Power and other state agencies, because there were some chemicals that were actually hurting the species. This called DDT, and that would actually deform the eggs. And so what we did, we tried to raise more awareness about it. We actually created more nesting habitats for the birds. And so we've created over 16 osprey nests, and we worked with Georgia Power, and they donated power line poles, and our volunteers help us create the platforms. And I want to say just about all of our nests that we have around Allatona Lake are in use with ospreys right now. And that is just one of the things that, you know, that is so incredible. And I just want to say, if you enjoy being outside and helping people and helping yourself also, being a park ranger is a very rewarding experience. Now, kind of going back to it, I took the photo in the middle. That was at one of our campgrounds, and it's a photo of some mallard ducks and ducklings. But right at the front of that photo is some water willows. And water willow is another aquatic plant that is very important for fish habitat, but also, for fish habitat, but also for aquatic fowl like birds and ducks and geese. they also eat water willows. So we plant water willows. We also plant ryegrass for deer and winter peas for deer. So a lot of times what we're trying to establish again a habitat and maintain that habitat for all species, from aquatic species, from fish to mussels to clams to snails and snakes, all the way to deer and bears. So that was definitely, if that's something that you're interested in, I would definitely say park ranger. That is a great career path. So the photo on the left here, another thing that we do, again, we try to maintain habitat for fish species around the lake. And that photo is one of our Christmas tree programs where we ask for donations after Christmas for people to donate their Christmas trees. And we use those Christmas trees, we'll tie them up and we'll create structures for fish habitats. And a lot of the fishermen around the lake, they enjoy it, and they really have noticed that this is something that does help and maintain the fish habitats and improve the quality of life of fish. Just some background of I guess to go a little back a little bit, just some background about Allatona Lake. So Allatona Lake is a dammed lake, dammed by the Allatona Project powerhouse, and Etowah River is the river that Allatona Lake is dammed on. And if you think about how dams can change the environment, I wanted to say how as the lake expanded and as we filled up the lake, a lot of fish habitats were destroyed, and they don't have a lot of food or access for maintaining habitats. So one of the projects or programs that we do try to maintain and do is creating these fishing structures to foster fishing habitats, foster fishing nesting qualities and parameters. And again, that is just a really important and incredible work that we do. So here's some examples of us putting the osprey nest up, and we also maintain habitats again for aquatic species, including wood ducks. So we also work with different scouts, Boy Scouts and Girl Scout groups to map and assemble and actually put out some wood duck boxes for us. And again, these wood duck boxes, they have been used. And this is something that we also observe kind of the behavior of the wood ducks, just to make sure that, are these wood duck boxes where we're placing them, is this a good place for them to be? Is there another place that we should essentially move them? Should we be adding more wood duck boxes? Should we be, or should we be adding more osprey nests or osprey towers or something like that? So again, the Special Status Species Program and the Habitat Conservation Program, those are just programs that we use to maintain, observe, and take notes on our natural spaces and our natural species around the project. And one of the last things that I had recently worked with our Beekeeping Association, and they were very generous to donate a queen honeybee. And so we have 2 honeybee hives on the project that we are maintaining for educational purposes, but also to get some honey. But it is an incredible way to show how everything is connected, how everything that we do as rangers can help other species. So if we plant more flowering, nectaring species, these can help the pollinators and the bees. If we, help and we plant more aquatic plants and more aquatic plants around the lake and rivers, this can also help certain mammals and certain other aquatic like birds and such. And so it is what we do as park rangers can actually be really holistic. And so here are just a couple of photos of me again of here's our pollinator prairie. We have some bee balm. This was in the fall, taken in the fall, so some bee balm was flowering at that point. But managing 2 active beehives is a lot of work, but it's again incredibly rewarding and a rewarding experience. And here are some of our visitors that I just wanted to talk about. So on the left here are some Canada geese. And just a little fact about Canada geese. Canada geese obviously are not native to Georgia, but they are a naturalized species. And as park rangers, we have a pretty interesting relationship with Canada geese. We try to maintain, their habitat and try to maintain, the habitat for all aquatic fowls and water birds. But one thing that we do to maintain and control the species so we don't have an overpopulation of Canada geese, as you can see here, is that we do goose addling. So essentially what that means is that we'll go to some of the nest and remove some of the eggs from certain islands or some of the areas where they have nests to maintain maintain their population. But what we have found is that these geese, they absolutely love to be around beach areas. They love to, and they're very sociable. And so what we're noticing in a lot of our beach areas and our public areas, the feces from the geese are actually degrading the quality of certain areas. So what we try to do, we try to maintain the populations as best as we can. Another visitor that I completely adore is our favorite groundhog that likes to visit us by the office. That was the best photo I can get of him. But again, we have a ton of different mammals around the lake, like groundhogs, like beavers, and I actually have seen a couple of otters too. But we really as park rangers have such an incredible experience to do, again, literally everything. We can go from being, working with the public, working with children, to working directly with animals, to working with larger entities to try and do bigger habitat conservation work. And the list again goes on. And finally, on the right here is one of our favorite visitors is a black bear. We do have occasionally bears that would migrate through our campgrounds looking for food, but a lot of times, especially with black bears, they are not very aggressive except during like mating seasons. But it is really a sight to see, and every day I never have a boring day at work. I have worked with the Corps of Engineers for 3 years now, and every single day has been a different experience. I can range from being in the field, all day, or, working on making maps or working on paperwork. But the thing is that I really have the opportunity to be outside or just go outside if I want to. And that is a special experience. And it's again, a rewarding experience because a lot of the times people don't have that and learn about where I work. And yeah, not a lot of people can have that experience or can say that. So I love being a park ranger and natural resource specialist. It is an amazing job. So lastly, I just kind of wanted to highlight that some of the biggest roles, the biggest skills to have as a park ranger is to be observant, is to always be aware of your surroundings. So, you can see, these incredible creatures, but also so you can identify certain hazard trees or certain instances that, you can identify, certain hazard trees or certain ways that you should be situationally aware. And I think I have really been able to develop my skills as being observational, as increasing my situational awareness. And again, there are so many opportunities that you can take if you were to be a park ranger. But again, being a park ranger is an incredible, incredible experience. You can do a host of things, and there is nothing else like it. So here are a couple of photos of us with our beehive, and that's my coworker with the queen bee. We were trying to separate her because she had swarmed. And all right, well, thank you so much.
All right. Coming back here. That was really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. We do have some questions shared. Some of the things I believe you hit on in your closing, but so you already shared what's the best part about being a park ranger. Someone said, how can we reduce the amount of pollution and toxic waste into the environment?
Oh, that's oh, that's a good question. I think that means, I think that's really being mindful of what you do as an individual and how you teach and show other people. I think representation is really important. So minimizing toxic waste into the environment means knowing, if you were, for example, to get on a boat on the lake, knowing what that means to put in gas, making sure that if you were to place gas, into your boat or your jet ski or something like that, knowing the proper protocols and making sure that you're not, putting that into the water. Or, for example, I've worked with a lot of private homeowners who have like I've actually worked with some private homeowners where they've actually spilled some sewage waste onto us. And so I think the biggest thing is always knowing what you're doing and making sure that you know everything around you. And it's that observational piece, making sure you are observant as much as possible. Great question.
There's another one here that I think is another awesome question based on some of the things you ended with, which is, are the animals welcoming with human contact, or are they reserved or defensive in their habitats? And so I'm guessing they mean like if you're not a park ranger, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just someone who's been in the park and you see these animals.
Yes. So a lot of times the animals will not mess with you unless you mess with them. That goes for every animal. A lot of times they're not going to be aggressive. That even goes for snakes. It may be hard to believe, but they're not aggressive, and they won't be provoked unless they are provoked. So in my experience, every time that I've engaged with animals, they have been more skittish than anything, but I've never encountered an aggressive. Actually, sorry, the most aggressive species that I've ever encountered were the geese, to be honest. Yeah.
Let's see. Someone said, or the same person said, what is the coolest species or animals you have seen? Would that be the osprey birds, or is there any other?
Yeah, so the ospreys are definitely one of the coolest species. I have an affinity for beavers and otters, and to actually see an otter do, so otters are nocturnal creatures, and so actually see one, uh, well, actually, sorry, beavers are nocturnal creatures, and so to actually see a beaver, you know, do its work in broad daylight, I was completely floored. So otters, I was actually able to see a beaver, and that was incredible.
That's interesting. Are they part of the same like family? Because
With otters and, and beavers, I'm actually unsure,
okay,
but I would follow up with you on that.
okay. I was just wondering because as a you know, I don't know myself, and so when I think about like what an otter looks like and what a beaver looks like, I'm wondering like what's the difference. So
So the biggest key for me is the tail. That's how
okay,
I differentiate between a beaver and an otter.
okay, wow, that is good to know.
Yes.
So let's see. Uh, have you done conservation work outside of Georgia? I know you mentioned when you were interning, doing some work in California. Has there been other places where you've also, gotten some experience or done some work?
Not quite yet. So my internship at with the Bishop Field office, I was able to do some plantings and restoration work with them, and it's a completely different ecosystem from Georgia, obviously, but the same. There was a lot of the same concepts, so it was very similar to the longleaf pine restoration project that I do now. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I was actually able to when I was working with the Bishop Pai tribe, I was actually able to survey some of the Piagi moths. So it's like a native moth there that historically the Paiute people would used to eat them and to build trenches around the Jeffrey pines and create these like wildland fires to harvest these moths. And so I was able to work with them to replant some Jeffrey pines and also survey that Piagi moth with them. So that was incredible too.
Okay. And so I know in the presentation you did talk about your experience from school to, uh, actually getting your job. We have some questions, and I'll basically put it up to you. Uh, what would you tell those that are interested in pursuing the same path as far as, what school subjects or courses they should focus on, and what can they expect, maybe pay wise or any other benefits. Definitely try, like, I would imagine that being able to be outdoors in the capacity that you are is, one benefit, but
Definitely. So in order to, I guess, be hired on as a park ranger, either as a summer ranger or an intern, you need to at least be taking undergraduate classes towards natural resource management. So that's very broad. You could so that means that you can take natural science courses, biology courses, or chemistry courses, or like me, geology courses, and that would still be encompassed into that field. So as long as you have 24 credit hours of science classes, that would at least qualify you for a position, at least with the Corps of Engineers as a park ranger with the Corps of Engineers. So again, like I took all of my classes were science classes, but I would definitely recommend wildlife management, natural resource management, any environmental law or policy course. That's something that currently I have to brush up on. I didn't take any courses on environmental policy or environmental law or something like that. But anything that has to deal with public policy, that would also be beneficial. Even psychology or criminal justice, Those are also degrees that can be acceptable or can qualify you as a park ranger. Yeah, even sociology. That's all. I mean, it's countless. You can pretty much use and your training anything that you're interested in and kind of push it towards being a park ranger. I know park rangers that were also budget analysts and accountants too. So um, again, the being a park ranger is so vast. There's so many different opportunities and ways that you can plug into being a park ranger. And I would like to share out usajobs.gov as a starting place for any federal job. But that would definitely give you some background, at least on some of the requirements that they look for park ranger positions.
Okay,
And
so
as far as the starting pay, I do want to say that's an important part to highlight. So starting pay is usually for straight out of high school starts straight out of a college as a permanent staff would usually have you at starting at 35,000. There are some pathways programs where I'm not sure if you're familiar with the GS scale, but they would offer like a 579. So that GS5 would be that $35,000 starting, and then that GS9 would be 55,000. So essentially, if you are to ever be hired on as a GS 579 or anything of that sort, that just means that that's a promotional track. So every year you'll be promoted.
all right. So we are set to end at 7:30, and we are getting very close to it. I just want to say thank you to Ranger Watson. Um, leave you with any last words you want to share, and then I'll wrap us up.
Well, one, I just wanted to say if anyone has any questions for me specifically, you can reach me at @BlackScientist_official on Instagram, or I can also get in contact with Carlin to send out my email address, and you can ask me questions about how to be a park ranger. I'll be happy to help you. And I guess lastly, you know, you don't always have to be an outdoorsy person to be a park ranger. I want to say that I didn't start, being outdoors until I got into college. Really, I didn't start hiking and backpacking until I was 21. So it is never too late for any opportunity. I even met, rangers that started their field when they were in their 50s after a whole career of doing something completely different. So the opportunities are always out there, and if you want to find it, they'll find you. I promise you.
Wonderful. So this was amazing. Like
Thank you.
literally, from hearing about the animals and protecting, the natural environment with the erosions and everything. I could really tell that these were some important topics that we were talking about. So for those that are interested, I see someone said, I love biology and environmental science, are classes I enjoy. I definitely encourage you to look into environmental protection and conservation.
Absolutely.
Yes. Our next Teen Science Cafe is going to be about astronomy. It is called Exploring the Wonders of the Universe. And so we definitely hope that you guys will join us again for that topic. Thank you so much, Ranger Watson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
It was. Take care.
All right, you do the same.